Away.
Hello, everybody, and good evening, and welcome to our conversation today, which is Does Waiting to Be Perfect Create or Eliminate? But before we start, I'd love to welcome Paula Alphonse, our co creator, to this conversation, and also talk about why is it that we've chosen to actually have this conversation. Some people might say, what are you all talking about? Again, we are here to be the paradigm busters and we're here to disrupt status quo because we truly believe in the experiences that we've had. That is what truly makes us grow
Mhm.
to really become the pro. So, having said that, why are we doing this through G100 Oneness and Wisdom, which is a phenomenal movement started off by Dr. Harbin Arora Rai? And we're very fortunate to actually be part of the Oneness and Wisdom
Mhm.
wing, right? And when I say that, it is simply because we are all trying very hard to be one. All of us are connected. We keep saying that, but how many of us really experience being that, right? And fortunately for us, we have been there. We have done it. We have fallen. We have failed. We have stood up tall, and we have walked and done so many different things. But from the oneness perspective, it is like if we did not have to be perfect, who would we be? And the question over here that I'm going to throw out, actually, to start off is, does perfection truly create or eliminate the work we do, the people that we are, and how we show up? So I'm going to throw that to you, Paula. Thank you for joining us. Paula here is our Canadian country chair, and it's a brilliant uh, way of actually connecting with her because we pretty much have the same sort of disruptive behaviors that actually wake and shake up people to their own brilliance. So, welcome, Paula, and give us your thoughts on that.
I would say, of course, as you've mentioned, I'm a status quo disruptor, and I think they were using different names when I was a child, but the idea is it's not because they said you had to do it that you would say okay. So for me, when I think about what's the challenge about perfection is that oftentimes it's one of those things that prevents you from being truly you because you're trying to fit a certain mold, you're trying to send a certain image, and sometimes that target it keeps moving, and
True.
life in itself is a moving and a briefing thing. So it's not one of those things where I say, okay, I get out of a university and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my journey. Because trust me, I tried that. And within maybe 5 or 6 years into that job, I'm like, I think I
Not
need to
working.
find something else. It's not working for me.
Exactly. I think the gray hair that I've got on my head is actually proof to show that I, for one, have been a perfectionist or tried to be one and
Mhm.
failed miserably at it.
Miserably.
Okay. And I think as time goes, it's actually cool to actually talk about it simply because we can share our own
Mhm.
experiences in this whole journey we call life. And you're very right. Why is it that we want to make everything perfect? Because we think it's going to be permanent, right? But
And
life
and it
isn't
is
permanent.
never. And it is
Okay.
never permanent. And that's the part for me. When I think about perfection, for me, what comes is transformation. Perfection
Yeah,
is striving to do something more, something better, something. It's about stretching yourself, stretching your skill set, but also stretching your perspectives. So if I
mm,
want to remain perfect, it's never going to happen because it's a constant movement. So it's
exactly.
one of those things that for a second you're looking at the sky
Mm,
and you see the way the snow is falling, and it feels like this is just perfect right this minute. Let me take a picture. We take those pictures to remember, we don't take those pictures to stay in the picture. So it's this part where sometimes we forget.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Is I think we are having a bit of connection problem, so we're getting a bit stuck. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. You just froze for a little while. So uh, the next thing that I'd like to actually bring up over here is what are some of the reasons that we are wanting so desperately to be perfect? Some of
To
the
fit
things
in.
that I have experienced,
Mhm.
and I have many people have shared with me as well, is that they try to pretend to be perfect because perfection is going with trying to pretend to be something that you're not.
Mhm.
And that there is like, oh my God, why are we actually doing that? It's such a stress, it's such a strain. But people carry on doing that. So there's a thing about I have to pretend to be something that I'm not. Okay, so that's one area. The other
Mhm.
area is that we have to maintain a facade of how other people would really want to see us and
Mm.
accept us. Okay, those are the two things that I have actually seen. What has been your experience?
When you're saying this, it brings to mind two people that when I used to be a manager, and
Mm,
both of them were perfectionists, but in a different type of way.
mm,
And what I remember is really from the perspective that if that perspective, that wish for perfection prevents you for interacting with others or
mm,
even moving into next steps, next actions
mm,
required, then it's not
mm,
working for you. But some
mm,
people are really about keeping things within a certain control. I want to know that I'm in control of everything, so I'm going to
mm.
do it my way. But as you're doing this, you're also preventing yourself from growing.
Exactly. Very
And
true.
it's one of those where it's at least for me, it saddens me when I see people who
Mm,
refuse to um, not just change, because sometimes it's not that big change that they're expecting. But
mm,
if things have always been done this way, my mom always did it like that, and
mm,
at this point, there's different things. Because back then, we might have used horses and chariots to go from one place to another. Would anyone consider using that if I had to go visit someone in a different part of the country?
mm.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
So, movement forward, change is normal. But it's how do we find within ourselves that space for us
Mm,
to move forward and not just be in that sense that if it's not done exactly this way, because it's always been done this way, there's always no, you can't you can't sit at
mm,
the head
mm,
of the table because that's so
yeah,
and so spot.
mm,
Okay, there are other chairs. What's the problem? But it's
mm,
this being stuck in some of
mm,
our
mm,
habits, being
mm,
stuck in our comfort zone, and
mm,
wanting to pull people into our comfort zone. Because trust me,
yeah,
often I've been, people have tried to pull me into what, well, why don't we just do this? And you're
mm,
like, because it doesn't work. We've tried it before, it didn't work. And
mm,
if you've
mm,
always eaten pasta, there's nothing
mm.
wrong with trying with some rice. With that, you might love pasta, but doesn't mean that other things are not interesting. So
Exactly.
it's
And
it's
even and even if you take it into another thing, so people are trying very hard to be perfect so that they can fit in. That's what I've seen. Um, and the one thing that I want to ask everyone here is even if you're trying to be, or say to everyone here, even if you're trying to be like someone, I mean, yes, we have mentors, we have people that we look up to. That's great. But their journey and experiences and responses were totally different to what yours are. So trying to be like somebody else to fit into a category to be recognized is actually futile, because no matter how much you try and be like them,
Mhm.
you may actually reach probably 10% or whatever. So instead of trying to be like them, what is it about them that you really admire that will inspire you to be more of you? Is the question that I would like to ask everyone, instead of trying so desperately to fit in. Okay. And then it comes with perfection. I have to do this, and then I can have that, right? So which is another thing. What are your views on that?
I would say for me, my life got better when I started getting satisfied with the good enough, because that little
Mm,
bit that you have to push in to get to that perfection actually takes all of your energy. And it's like, what for? Because barely anybody is going to notice it. And the idea is, who are you trying to please in the end? So I made my choice earlier in my journey that, you know what, it's a lot easier to be authentic. It's a lot easier to just be me.
okay. Which is yeah. So now the question over here is that if people were willing to be themselves, I mean, what would that look like? What would that entail? That is the question.
Ah, being yourself, at
Mm,
the root of it, you have to know yourself.
bravo.
And you have to know not only the good things, but the not so great things as well about yourself. And then come to terms with it. Because am I ever going to sing like Whitney Houston? Never. But that's okay, because I can buy her records. I can listen on YouTube. I can enjoy the music without being the singer. And that's the part we each have to find, what is it that is our individual calling. And as we're doing this, also realize that life is a movement. So you might have found something that worked for you perfectly when you were in your 30s, and then comes to your 40s, it's no longer satisfying.
Mm,
Does this mean I'm stuck with it? No, it's about reinventing yourself. It's about self growth. It's about figuring out what next, because there is a next.
mm, true. Because I think most of the time, the one phrase that I have used as my personal mantra is that change is constant. We all know that. I mean, everyone has talked about it, and it's really like been rubbed into us. One of the things that I added on there was, but changing is a personal choice. Because if you're not actually going to choose something for you, then possibly you're going to lose. And not choosing is a choice as well. So again, it's more about can we actually come up with situations or stories that we tell ourselves that we have to have this, otherwise, people are not going to like us. This constant thing of self rejection, I think, has to stop.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and this judgment of not being good enough. Because
I
once we
call
get into this
those
loop, the loop of this
the loop.
judgment, not good enough, and
Mhm,
then we judge ourselves out of existence,
mhm.
and then we have to justify what it is that we're doing that truly is necessary, because then we'll be recognized. I mean, what is it doing to you as an
To
individual?
me,
Literally.
To me, what you're referring to as are what I call the saboteurs, which are those voices within. Those could be things that people have said or you've heard around you when you were a child or a young adult. It's like there's always going to be people who like you or don't like you. There's always going to be people who say you laugh too much, or you don't smile enough, or you should keep your space, because you're taking a little bit or too much space here. And I've heard all
That's
of
true.
that. And I have to be honest, love my father dearly, but it was the person who would tell me often, "Ooh, you don't have to laugh so loud." But at the same time, if it's truly a moment of joy, why should I hide it? And that's the part. It's we have to give ourselves space to just be
Mm,
us. We have to acknowledge that even those women on TV, or those even Einstein had those moments where it's like, am I on the right road or am I totally on the left field? The idea is understand that it is okay not to be perfect. And it's
mm,
actually, if you look, my perspective, when you
mm,
look at the way God created humanity,
mm,
there were so many different species, but also there were so many, when you look into the plants, there were so many
mm,
different types to sense the purpose, the whatever they were bringing in the environment. Why would you
mm.
think that as humans we have to be the same as other people?
That's the thing. That's the
If we're
thing.
meant to be his greatest creation, excuse
Mm.
me, why are we making it more difficult than it needs to be?
And I think most of the time people, and I mean, I'm guilty as charged, quite honestly, is when we try so hard to to do things so perfectly, because this is what happens. I mean, this has been my experience. I'm going to actually share it. It's like, how many times have I tried to do something and I wanted to turn out a certain way, and it actually does not turn out a certain way. So then what I do is like, okay, it's not working. I'm not going to do it. Maybe it's not a good thing to do. So we just eliminate our own creation simply because we want it to come in a certain way. I think the same thing occurs with when we are asking for something, or when we are praying, okay,
Mhm.
or when we say, I wish I could have this, and God, please give me this, and all of that. And if it doesn't show up the way that we want it, then we
Mhm.
actually don't even acknowledge that something has shown up which is totally different, right?
Yeah.
And so then we are disgruntled, and then we go through whatever.
And
It's really true.
I love what you're saying, because it's this part where there's a desire. I think there's an innate desire to do better and to be better.
Mm,
But what we also have to acknowledge, because we are work in progress, the idea
exactly.
is when something doesn't work, this is where I stop and I figure out what's the lesson. If I start doing this, I'm going to start identifying those patterns. Why am I looking so, or why am I working so hard for this person to like me?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
they don't
We
have
have,
to.
yeah, we've got Farah, who's our Iraq country chair, who's made a really good comment. She says, we stopped choosing because we thought we are abusing others who don't choose.
Nope. I'm sorry,
So,
Farah. I'm letting that go. I'm not taking ownership for other people deciding to drop their ball. I will make sure if I need assistance with other people that we all know what it is that we are meant to bring. But then at the same
okay.
time, there will always be moments where I decide not to choose, but I decided.
Mm,
So we always have to remember, not choosing is a decision. Remaining in position is a decision.
correct. So not choosing is a choice as well, right?
Yeah.
To try to be perfect, to try and get everything done. But that's a very good observation, Farah. Thank you so much for your comment. It's nice to have people writing in. And I just wanted to open up the floor for people who have questions to please do comment so we can actually tackle it, because it's really cool to be having a conversation. And I thought we can have people coming on live that actually would like to ask any questions, so we can invite them to join us um, on screen. So if anyone is there who would like to um, show up and ask a question and would like us to invite them, please let us know. In the meantime, we're having an interesting conversation. So let's look at being perfect. Does it create or eliminate? So we've talked about elimination. Now let's talk about creating something perfect. Does it happen in a nanosecond?
No.
Okay. Because I've had that experience. Okay. The more that I have delayed something occurring, for example, and I put it aside, and suddenly at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I will have this amazing download that comes in of something that I had asked for, but it just came at that time. And I always have a writing pad or my laptop close to me, and then I started typing. And what I wanted that I was not being able to get before actually came down like a download, which was absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so perfection can come in when we are not in our own way. That's what I've
Mhm.
actually heard and experienced, because perfection sometimes could be a major pain. So if you
Yeah.
can get out of your own way, then you allow everything to contribute to you. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you are limiting you from receiving anything new.
Mhm.
Literally. I've had that experience umpteen number of times.
What I like to say is that perfection to me is about the process, doing something right and ensuring that it gets you the same result that you want all the time. That's good. There could be a perfection in that. But then at the same time, if you expect the end result to always
Mm,
remain the same, it's also not recognizing the fact that in the world, there are things you have no control over. So there'll be things that will change. So if you can't do the continuous improvement, you're never going to remain in perfection for a really long time. So think about the very first cars that were invented, and now we're looking those automated vehicles that they're looking into producing, and you're like, huh, wow, am I there yet?
mm,
It's a lot. It's understanding that the idea is the start. It
mm.
could be perfect at the moment, and then there's something else that's going to happen that's going to make it better or increase its value, but you'll have to be willing to let go of that sense of the perfection is stagnant, because it's not. And we shouldn't aim for it. We should aim for improvement rather than perfection.
Which is a nice way to look at things. We have another amazing comment from somebody who says,
As
as
a
a
recovering
recovering
perfectionist,
I have been
I have been
learning
learning.
to give myself grace with the process of doing things. Sometimes I stick to what I want depending on circumstances, but I am more flexible now.
Yes,
Bravo!
bravo,
Absolutely bravo! Bravo!
congratulations, keep doing this.
Awesome! And this Facebook user is none other than our darling Nicole Farrell, our
Mhm,
amazing country chair,
mhm.
who who's doing a remarkable amount of work helping people to get out of their own way. I think that's one of the things. To be able to be in more oneness and wisdom,
Mhm,
we need
mhm.
to actually get out of our own way so that we can actually be present. We're not present. We're constantly absent of wanting to choose the future. So the
I
present is
think,
totally not in the equation. And anything that has to change changes in the present moment, not in the future as much or
and
in the past.
that's why to me perfection makes no sense, because perfection is it happens right now, but you can't try to get perfection in the future. It's the sense that it's going to keep changing. It's a
Exactly.
limitation. It's not giving you that opening that you need to
Exactly.
create better, to create bigger, to achieve something else than what
Something
you've
else.
already got.
Yeah, because Farah just now has said perfection is a limitation. Um, Farah, you may want to add some more to that because that seems just what exactly do you mean by that? Would you like to share your thoughts a little bit more so that everyone can get what that is? I would like to comment on that though. When I think what Farah might be meaning is when we talk about being perfect and we are limiting ourselves from expanding what it is that we already are doing and what
Mhm.
it is that we can create going forward, which again requires us to be present in the moment, right?
Ah,
It,
yes.
everything
Yes.
is actually changes in nanoseconds all the
Mhm.
time. So it's an interesting concept. Thank you for that, Farah. And Nicole,
And I
thank you
see
for
in the
your
comment,
comments.
Eva Rosa had mentioned that perfection is accepting the imperfection in ourselves. And I think that's the part that most people have such a hard time doing, is appreciating that an imperfection can be exactly what it is that you need, because it's going to
Mm,
keep you moving in the direction if it matters enough for you.
mm,
Because without that sense that we're accepting the imperfection, it would mean that everything is okay. But you have a standard. You already established what's good and what's not good enough. So
mm.
keep working at it. But I don't
It,
see it for me. Perfection for the sake of perfection is not sustainable.
yeah, it is. It isn't, and that's what like what Eva is saying here. Perfection is accepting the imperfection in ourselves, which is cool. It's good. I'd like to hear more about that, Eva. So if you'd like to put in some more information to give us a little more detailing on that, it might be a cool thing to actually have that. Okay, so we have Farah again, who's talking about something. She says she tried to do my job perfectly before,
Hmm.
then I stopped doing it because it's not perfect. Okay, okay, makes sense.
And I
Okay.
don't know whether you stopped doing, because I used to paint. And I remember I used to, when I was painting, I always knew what I started with, but I never really knew what I would end up with. And there would be times where you finish a painting and you're thinking, yeah, that's not it. And then
Mm-hmm.
someone else would come in and they look at it and they're like, "God, this is so gorgeous." And you're like,
Mm,
yeah, but there's this little thing that's not working for me. There's this other thing, but there's beauty in imperfection. You might not see it because you're looking for perfection, but the other person looking at it might be seeing it.
mm,
So it's one of those where you're never the best person to assess perfection for yourself. And what you see perfection in someone else, that person might not even be able to see it themselves.
So we've got Farah who says, now I just go with the flow. The question over here is, how would people actually learn how to get in the flow? That's one thing. And secondly, are we really here to even recognize, do we even want to recognize that we're not in the flow? Because most of the time we think we have to have all the answers. Everything has to be perfect. This is the right way of doing it. There's no other way of doing it. It has to be perfect. Um, and the thing is that even in the corporate world, because I work with the corporate world, and it is more about how many policies and procedures do we have that are still there, that are totally antiquated and have got nothing to do with what it is the requirements are in the present moment.
Yeah.
So then we have people then have to who have to counsel the staff, and we have to do things like that because there's a disconnect
Hmm.
with what is the business requiring, what is it the people are having to follow, and where the policies and procedures are in place that are not serving right now what the complete the vision of the organization is for the moment. So there's a disconnect there also. So I think it would be a really cool idea for people to be a little open to not think that something that was created way back when is
Hmm.
actually applicable now. and to be able to actually come to some sort of openness and vulnerability to say, okay, fine, that worked then. Is it actually working now? Those are the
Yes.
simple questions if we were to actually
Yes.
ask. We would actually
Yes.
see it's really not working. So why are we trying so desperately to actually fit? We're actually trying so hard to fit in with everything, which is we have a lot of comments coming, which is really cool. We've got one from Eva. Let's see what she has to say. We need to accept ourselves as we are, not because society wants us to be.
Yep.
It's to believe that we are amazing as we are.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Eva, I
And
have a
being
question for you.
amazing.
I have a
Sorry.
question for you, and that would be when you say you are as amazing as you are, does it mean that you cannot change and be better than what you are right now?
No.
Um, let's hear from you on that. She has another comment, and that is sometimes it's so difficult to be
On
in
the
the
flow.
flow, which is true. And
Hmm.
that is why we have got some amazing tools and techniques that we can actually share, which is the first one. Do you want to do some of the stuff that you would like to help people with? Eva has got another comment. Our own expectations, fear of not achieving.
Hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Very, very true, Eva. Thank you for that. We have Farah who says, so when some parts are not, I think I stop completing the business. Okay. Now it's not necessary to have all the parts completed. Okay.
What I think what I'm hearing is about challenging um, the nature of our policies,
Mm,
looking into is it still working? Is it not working? If it's not, then what needs to be done? When I used to be in the corporate, it was just like, why is it taking so long for you to acknowledge that this policy no longer works? And it's because it's too easy not to change. It
mm,
requires a bit more work to keep it
mm,
working. But the bigger the organization, the longer it takes them to make those changes on the policies.
mm. Okay, we have Eva who's come up with something. We can always change, but it's really needed. Okay, because sometimes we just need to be aware of who
Mhm.
we are. Our DNA is perfection. Why? So I'm a bit confused. What do you mean by our DNA is perfection and why? Is that a question for us? Let me just take that and respond to you, Eva. It is more about how are we actually looking at ourselves on a daily basis. Uh, we are almost always looking at ourselves from I wear the spectacles of judgment. I'm not
Mhm.
good enough. Okay, they will not like what I do. I do not know what to do. Oh,
Mhm.
I know everything to do, and why are they not wanting to do it with me? So we go through all of that stuff, but the essential part is, which I will always say and say it again, is instead of going through that banter in the mind, it might be a better way for us to actually stop and be silent. And when we can be silent, then we can actually be able to listen to what is going on around us, to become aware of that. And once we become aware of it, then it's to also recognize that it is an experience that you chose to have in that moment, but you're not bound by it. You are the
Mhm.
creator of the experience, and
Yes.
you can actually choose to shift and change it by honoring yourself to do it. So that's what I would like to say. We have another um, Vanessa is wanting to say something. Let's get Vanessa here. I've been really contemplating this lately as well. wanted to start a YouTube channel or something, but I'm very nervous about putting myself, and in particular my own thoughts, out there. Vanessa, thank you very much for actually writing to us, and
Mhm.
mentioning that. Paula, would you like to take that? That I will add to it.
Okay, I can take that, and I would say do it with fear. Do it with fear, because I have seen so many things on YouTube where you're wondering, and who thought this was pertinent to create this video? So I think it's about giving
Mm.
yourself a voice and finding the people who can associate with your message. So don't, don't be nervous. Or if you are nervous, that's okay. You can still do it because it just means you care enough that you want to make a difference. So to me, I would say, go on, girl.
And I couldn't agree with Paula more. Vanessa, this is something that you got to get. And this is how it is that I would actually coach people. You see, there's something so unique about you. Okay. The essential part is to really get to know what makes you so uniquely brilliant and different. Because there's so many of us who are wanting to actually learn from you and gain something from you. And if you are not going to show up and share that with us, whatever it is, you're actually going to be doing the whole planet a lot of injustice, and definitely yourself. So please, please honor you. And if you require assistance, if you require help, reach out to people who are there to support you to uncover and discover your unique brilliance, because we do all of that and we have fun doing it. So reach out to us and see what we can help you with. But remember one thing, you are unique, and if you are going to not show up, you're going to hide your brilliance that will truly make a difference in so many people's lives. So please show up with whatever it is. And if you want
Can
it
I mention?
refined, reach out to people who can help you do that. Thank you for sharing, Vanessa. Truly appreciate it.
I'll mention something else,
Who else is out there who
Jennifer.
would like? Eva says, uh, she says, totally agree, Jennifer. I think it was because of the perfection part we were talking about. Thank you, Eva. And then we have, uh, who
If I can
else? Who
interrupt
else?
here,
Yes, please do.
I'll just mention this part, and this is me, and I don't know what Vanessa has planned for herself, and I suspect that you, Jennifer, would tide along with me. In my mind, I don't want to leave this earth with any regrets. So therefore, even if I do, let's just say 5 episodes on YouTube, and then I decide it's no longer working for me, then that's fine. You did it. You stretch yourself. So go for it.
Mm, mm, true. Absolutely. I think that that's the most phenomenal piece of advice all of us can actually do, and stop waiting to be perfect. Because perfection, as we said in the title, it truly is an elimination. It's not a creation.
Mhm.
And as Farah says, it's a limitation, which is very true. So, who else do we have who would love to share your questions or your thoughts? We'll be more than happy to have an interesting conversation with you guys. Do let us know. In the meantime, let's come into what is it that we can do to actually help people to move forward in whatever they're choosing to do without having this almost hammer on their head of perfection, which actually will eliminate as opposed to create. Um, so before we answer that or talk about that, Vanessa has got another interesting thing that she'd like to Hey, here. Thank you both. This is inspiring. I was watching a female CEO talk about how her perfectionism gave her a high standard of product, but the struggle and balance between her addiction to success put her very strong fear of failure, which is true because that's one of the areas that we are so afraid of. What will people think of us? You know what? Don't bother about what will people think about you, because one thing that I've learned and all the years that I've actually been around on the planet is this: what other people think about you is none of your business. And then I add to it, please do not make it your business.
Mhm.
Okay, so show up, and people who really care about what it is that who you are and what you do, quite honestly, Vanessa, will actually give you good feedback. Okay. And those are the kind of people that you must have in your circle. Everyone else is irrelevant. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, dear. We have Eva who's come up with something. Let's bring it on screen. Your advice is as our female leadership in Angola. Hey, good on you,
Mhm.
babes. Um, it was only necessary to start and give the first step, and one step at a
Say
time.
everyone. Yep.
And we are going to have our fifth anniversary. Congratulations! Bravo! That's what it is all about. And
Mhm.
she says, and I'm also a perfectionist, but I'm learning how fragile that can make us. Good on you. Thank you for sharing that, Eva. And there's no harm in being a perfectionist. Okay, there's nothing wrong about it. But when it stops you from eliminating you and creating more for you, then please look into it. Okay, no one is
I
saying it's an
wonder
either or.
if I maybe change the bit a bit of the topic rather than aim for perfection. Let's aim for excellence. Let's do what it is that we do to the best of our capacity and keep striving to do better. But it's not about being perfect. It's not about people's opinion. It's about ensuring that things are that you are growing as you're doing things. And to me, that's more
Yes,
important. Excellence is so much better to me than perfection because perfection is always
exactly.
temporary.
True. And I think one of the things that we all have to allow ourselves. So there's something that I believe in, and that is allowance. Allowing yourself to be whatever it is that you are. And guys, you don't get to be a success or get to be excellent overnight. You will have to fall flat on your face,
Mhm.
because you have to remember one thing, that every time that you fall, you actually learn something new that helps you to come back up stronger. So
Yes.
failure is not the thing that you must, because you're not attempting to do anything because you want to be perfect, because you don't want to fail. Failure is where that you will learn and create way more than what it is that you ever thought was possible before.
Mhm.
We have another, we have Sri Vidya who would like to say something. She says, thank you for a wonderful session, the perfect topic. Well, thank you, Sri Vidya, and for your comment. And we hope to be of service to many more, because we're all into oneness and wisdom, the whole lot of us.
Mhm.
And that is the wisdom that we come
Yeah.
to share from being oneness, which is brilliant on the G100. We have Vanessa who has something. Oh my goodness. I love this advice. Thank you so much, both. It popped up on my phone from LinkedIn, and I tapped in and I got an unexpected inspiration boost this Friday. Yay! Thank you so much, Vanessa. Truly grateful. We have these kind of conversations all the time, so please be tuned in, my dear. Would love to have you and for you to share your amazing comments with us and what it is you've learned as well, or not learned, or what you'd like to change. and what you'd like us to improve on, because there's no perfection around here, right?
No, it's about improvement. It's about stretching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you once again, Vanessa. Yes, Paula. Now we can actually have what it is that what we were wanting to talk about. We've got around about 10 minutes more that we can go with it.
Hmm.
Uh, so what are some of the things that we can do to help us have perfection from a creative perspective and not something that will eliminate us? Any thoughts on that?
For me, and this is me, it's about questioning myself. Every time I get to that point where it's like there's that sense of stress, there's that sense I can't do it or whichever. It's just like, what are you afraid of? What's the worst that could happen? And as you're looking at that, and then you're thinking, there have been in the most of our journey, and as with you, I have gray hair. So therefore, I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I realized that through my journey, where I'm at this point, I am still at the best version of myself compared to who I was at 20, at 30, or at 50. Because you realize that as you're growing, there are layers of you that just keep getting better. And as you do this, and this is not to throw myself flowers, but it's just that sense of wisdom, that sense of, oh, there's no need to worry to spend a bunch of time on this little thing. Oh my God, my nylons had a tear in them, and nobody told me. Who cares? Maybe they didn't pay attention because what you were saying were way more important than that tear in your tights. So it's just understanding that we need to step out of other people's opinion, but also measure as there been growth. If I was exactly where I was when I was 20, to me that would have been failure.
I think just to add to that, it's so necessary for us to really not be hard on ourselves. Okay. And as Paula was saying earlier, we both have gray hair. My advice to you guys is don't wait for your hair to get gray. Listen to what it is that we are saying so that you can start shifting and changing it right now. Okay. In this moment. Okay. And being vulnerable is one area that I believe it's a powerhouse to actually learn how to be vulnerable.
Oh,
It's
I
not that
love
you have
what
to
Vanessa
protect,
wrote.
you're not to be right, because what is happening in the world nowadays, Paula, and I'm quite sure everyone who's listening, you'll actually see that it's always having to be right that
Mhm.
creates the fight, right? So
That's
having
what
to be
creates
right,
pressure.
exactly, and I have to maintain my point of view, and then you have to maintain your point of view, and there is no coming together to create something greater, because each one, as I have said before, I think many a time, is like each one of us is a piece of that puzzle
Mhm.
that creates that tapestry that we would like to call our world.
Yeah.
And if anyone, Vanessa, this is for you, my dearest, if any one of us is not showing up to actually fill that piece of that puzzle to create this amazing
Yes.
brilliance of our universe, then we're doing an injustice to the universe, to the world, because we are not being able to show up and actually share our brilliance, because each one is unique and each one is brilliant. So please do not downplay yourself. And if you really don't know who you are and what you're to be, don't be hard on yourself. Be vulnerable enough and allow it to show up, and ask for help of people who truly have your back,
Mhm.
who truly have your back. And I think we in G100 Oneness and Wisdom carry the space to educate, to enable, to enhance, to empower, and to really help all our sisters spread their wings and soar.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'd like to acknowledge Tanya, who is coming in now and saying this is an expansive conversation. And yes, this
It
is
is.
just the start, Tanya. Thank you for joining us. On that happy note, Paula, any last words?
I would say be you. Just be you. Everyone
Unapologetically,
else is taken.
right? Oscar Wilde said that brilliantly.
Yes, just be you.
Yes, be you. Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for spending time with us. We at G100 Oneness and Wisdom have enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you have enjoyed it as well. I know Paul and myself are having a lot of fun with it, and
Yeah.
we've learned so many amazing things. And always please remember that we are here to really empower one another.
Hmm.
No one has need everyone to show up and to shake up and to wake up so that we all can actually learn from one another. So, having said that, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we hope to see you in our next session. And we don't know what it is because we're not perfect yet, but we create one and share that with you. So, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Paula, for spending time with me. It's
My
always a
pleasure.
pleasure. Thank you so much. God bless everyone, and good night.